How's it going, y'all? It's me, Space Cadet, and today we're going to be talking about the time I almost lost my hand. This is by far the worst injury I've ever received. This is another middle school story. The true peak of my hospital visits is this story right here. But really quick, like it if you like it, sub if you want to, and let's get into it. This one takes us back to the summer of my 6th grade year, between my 6th and 7th grade year. Me and my brother was chilling at home, probably avoiding their chores for the day or something. No parents were home. It was just us, and we was fucking off. And our power goes out. This used to happen all the time. Our power would just go out if it would rain too hard, if the wind would blow too hard. If you looked at those power lines the wrong way, the power would just go out. But we was just chilling, and the power goes out. And we're not wanting to stay inside. The weather wasn't awful outside or anything, so we decided to go outside. So I start getting ready to go outside, get dressed, get my clothes on and shit. And my brother pulls out this piece of metal that he had been working on from his shop class. And it was just this square plate of thin metal that had been cut in half and kind of like a semicircle out of it, and the inside of it was sharpened. That's the only way I can describe this, because it wasn't like a traditional weapon or anything. He wasn't trying to make anything. It was just a square piece of metal that had been cut in half and then kind of like sharpened on the inside. It wasn't quite like clean in half. It was kind of at an arc, a little less than half a plate left, but he had taken it and he had sharpened the inside of it, and he was like, we could go fuck with this outside. And I was like, oh, okay, you want to go throw it at something? And he's like, sure. So we go outside and we start throwing this thing, throwing it at wood, trying to stick it in there, and start throwing it at the ground and just fucking with it. It gets a little dull. My brother goes in my dad's garage and grabs a tool, sharpens it up a little bit, and he brings it back out there. And right next to my dad's garage, there's an extra little building there, and it's made of wood too. So we decided to start throwing it at the big wooden door, and we stick it in there a couple of times, and my brother's throwing it. He sticks it in there a couple of times, and it comes back around to my turn to throw it, and I don't know what came over my brother's mind. I don't know what he was thinking. I never got an explanation out of the events that are about to unfold, but what happened next still shocks me to this day when I think about it. My brother has the piece of metal out of the wooden door, and instead of walking back over to where I'm standing, or so I can throw it at the door again, he throws it at me. I just want you to think about that for a second. He doesn't throw it at the ground next to me. He doesn't like try to walk over to me and hand it to me like I thought he was going to. He doesn't like gently toss it next to me like a horseshoe. He battle axe throws this thing directly at my head, and I'm shell shocked. I'm stunned. At that moment, everything went slow mo. I'm watching this thing fly through the air, stunned, like I'm staring up at the sun, and I'm just watching it get closer and closer and closer, and I'm just staring at it. I'm just watching this thing fly through the air in disbelief. I can't believe it. Eventually, I don't remember how close this thing got to me, and instead of and this is dumb on my part. My brother was stupid for throwing it, and now I've got to call myself out. This is the dumbest thing ever. I just sat and watched it. I just sat and watched it. I didn't turn and run. Like, everything in my body was telling me to turn and run, and I just didn't. I stayed there. I stood there and I watched it. I was shocked. I was so dumbfounded. I don't know. What felt like way past the last second, I just throw my arm up and I turn away from it. I turn my head away and I close my eyes. I close my eyes, turn my head away, and I throw my arm up. And out of sheer luck, this thing strikes my arm. This thing strikes my arm instead of what would have been my neck if it had hit me. It would have straight up slammed into my neck. And what makes it even worse is that the blade got me. The blade side got me, and I didn't realize that at first. And I only realized that I didn't feel it. I don't know. It didn't feel like anything had like hit me. It didn't felt like I'd got cut. I just felt like a pressure on my arm. I just felt a pressure, and then after I felt that pressure, I knew I deflected it, which in that moment, I felt like such a badass. I just deflected the sheet of metal coming at my face like Batman. And that feeling quickly faded once I looked at my hand and realized that I realized that there was now a huge chunk of skin missing. Like not just a chunk of skin. Like I looked down and I thought I could see bones. It turns out it was my tendons. I thought I could see the bones sticking up out through the wound where it had cut me, but turns out that was a tendon. But I quickly look away. I just grabbed my hand and like I remember screaming. I remember screaming like a little girl. Which is weird because I didn't feel any pain. It felt so surreal. It felt so surreal. It just felt like I wasn't there. It felt like I was in someone else's body. It literally felt like I had been transported into someone else's body. And I was just screaming. I didn't feel any pain. I was just screaming. And after a couple seconds of just standing there and screaming, I got my bearings a little bit and I just ran inside. I'd grabbed my arm. I tucked it to my chest, just kind of flat, trying to support it. And I just ran inside. I ran inside and I was just, I wasn't focused on, I grabbed my arm and I was get done screaming and I run inside and to the bathroom. And I want to say at this point, the power was back on because I remember seeing myself in the reflection of the mirror, which probably wouldn't have been likely if the power was off. So I want to say the power was back on and I went to my bathroom and I grabbed a washcloth and draped it over my arm, and then I grabbed a big towel and a big bath towel and wrapped it around my entire arm. I stood there with my arm on the counter, looking at myself in the mirror and just in shock, in disbelief. I was hyperventilating. I was huffing and puffing and just I couldn't believe it. It literally felt like I think I said to myself like this isn't real. This can't be real. It felt like it genuinely didn't feel real. And it wasn't that I was in pain. I genuinely wasn't in much pain. I was just so shocked. I was so shocked. I knew the severity of what had just happened. Like I couldn't move any of the things in my hand. I couldn't move anything. But I was like, I gotta do something. I can't just stay here. Like I have to go get help. I need help. Like I don't know what kind of help I need, but I know that I need help. And like I said, their parents aren't home. I didn't feel like calling the police, but it in my mind, calling the police just wasn't in the cards just yet. I was like I'd thought about it, but immediately I was like, nah, let's hold off. I don't think it's that bad yet. So, and while I'm in the bathroom looking at myself, my brother's there. I don't remember like when my brother got there, but my brother was there. I don't remember if he was trying to talk to me or not. I think he was trying to talk to me, and I don't remember what he was saying. I just remember looking at myself in the mirror, just trying to breathe. I remember just trying to breathe. I was just breathing, and it literally felt like hours inside that bathroom just looking at myself. But I knew it hadn't been that long. It had probably just been like a couple of seconds. But after that, this feels like a movie. What happened next? I swear it was just bright outside. If this is like a phenomenon for like misremembering things, please let me know. But from what I remember, it was like genuinely bright outside, and we was playing outside. And like after I get cut, go in, wrap myself up, and I walk right back out the door. I'm like, I have to go get somebody. We've got neighbors somewhere. Like I don't live in a big city or nothing where my neighbors are right next to me, but we got neighbors down the road. So I just start walking, and I remember like getting halfway through the driveway and it starting to rain, and it being cloudy, and it just raining harder and harder, and not like downpouring, but it just slowly getting worse as I'm walking down the road. And I was like, this feels like this is a movie, bro. This is a movie. I swear. It was like everything was good until it went wrong, and now everything's hitting the fan, bro. Like I don't get it. But I get out the driveway, and my brother's walking with me, and he's probably still trying to talk to me, and I'm just walking. I knew our neighbor that lived down the road. I knew him pretty good, so I was like, I'll just walk to his house and hope he's there and awake. If not, I'll try the next neighbor. So I just start walking. And about the time I'm about to walk onto his porch, our neighbor's porch, my dad pulls up in his car and he sees us walking and he's like, "What are y'all doing?" And immediately I'm like, I hurt myself. I've got to go to the hospital. Probably the luckiest timing ever. That was the most wild timing ever. If we had walked just a little bit faster, like we would have been like on his porch and like out of sight by the time he had went up the road. So honestly, clutch dad for coming in when he did, bro. I just stopped to think about that. I don't think I've ever thought about that before. Right as soon as we're about to like go out of sight from the road and go up onto his porch, my dad comes up in his car. He's like, "What are y'all doing?" And I'm like, "I'm hurt. I'm hurt bad. I'm going to go to the hospital." Either me or my brother says I've got to go to the hospital, and like me and him both knew that. But my dad, put yourselves in my dad's perspective. He's coming home from like a long day of work, and he just sees his children walking down the road when they should just be chilling at the house. And then when they casually say they're hurt and they have to go to the hospital, you're probably going to have some questions, which I didn't understand at the time. I was just like, we have to go to the hospital, let's go. And my dad was just like, okay, well let's get in here and let's check you out, buddy. He was so downplaying it so hard. He didn't understand right then. I was like, okay, and I quickly hop in, and my brother gets in, and we drive back up to the house. Which I didn't have to walk like too ridiculously far. It's just a couple minute walk. So we drive back up to the house, and he parks up, and we step into the garage. And I've still got my hand wrapped up, and I've got it like rested up against my chest, and he's like, "Let me see it." And we get stepped out of the car, and we're in the garage. My dad's like, "Okay, let me see it. Like I've got to see it." And I hand him my hand wrapped up. And I'm like, you can unwrap it. I don't want to see it. And I literally close my eyes and turn away because I don't want to look into my open wound. So I hand him my hand, and he unwraps it. And these are my dad's words, not mine. My dad said he turned as pale as a ghost. After I feel him wrap it back up a little bit, I open my eyes and kind of wrap it all the way back up. And I look at him, and he's just like, "Get in the car. We're going to the hospital." So I get right back where I was, and we book it to the hospital, just me and him. He immediately gets on the phone with with 911, and they are not picking up, and they don't pick up on him, bro. They leave his ass, bro. He calls like 7 or 8 times, and he don't get an answer. So he flies to the nearest hospital. No, I don't think we went to the nearest hospital. We went to the further away hospital. We got the closer hospital, and then we got the further away hospital. The further away hospital's the better one, but we just went straight to the further away hospital. And immediately, after my dad couldn't get a hold of the cops, he calls my mom, which worked at that hospital at the time. Which, thank God, because I probably wouldn't have got the treatment I got if not. But as soon as I get there, I get walked straight in and immediately get put on a bed. I don't know if it was like quite that immediate, but by the time we get to the hospital, it's pouring the rain. It had just started when we had left the house, but when we get to the hospital, it's pouring the rain, and we have to walk a little bit through the rain. And as soon as we get there, my dad does like a little bit of talking, and immediately I remember these double doors off from like the reception area from where my dad's talking. They burst open with a bed. They stroll it right up to me, and I'm looking at it, and they're like, "All right, get on." I'm in disbelief. I'm like, I've never gotten like the VIP treatment from a hospital before. But at this point, I'm still not in any pain. I had checked the wound a couple of times. It hadn't been bleeding much. Like there wasn't blood everywhere. It had stayed just like pretty well there. But I get on the bed. They don't take me far. They take me like immediately into a very close room, and my mom walks in. I don't think my dad comes in the room with me, or he doesn't stay, but my mom's there with me. And I just remember I remember being on this bed, them checking out my arm a bunch. I remember them removing the towels and blasting it with cold water, and oh my God, that was the weirdest feeling ever. It felt like my whole arm just turned into a sponge, and like as the water like went into my wound, my arm was just sucking it up, and it was like, I could feel it like going up my arm, like up towards my shoulder. Sorry, I just wigged myself out describing that, but that's what happened, bro. It was so weird. It was so weird. I remember staying in this hospital room forever. It seemed like forever I stayed in this like this room. room. They had flushed my arm out a couple of times and still no pain. And then they put a fucking numbing needle in it, bro. They went to numb my arm and they went to fucking literally zero pain the entire time. But as soon as they went to numb my arm, all of the pain, just my arm felt like it was on fire. I felt the needle. I felt it inside my arm. Oh my god, my arm was on fire. It like pins and needles like shot up my arm. That was painful. It was then like all the pain that had just been building up the whole time I hadn't been feeling it was just released as soon as she put that numbing needle in my arm. Ugh. And the needle was so big, too. The needle was fucking massive. Oh my god. Ugh. I'm not a doctor, and don't accept medical advice from me. But in my experience, if it doesn't hurt, refuse the numbing solutions. If it doesn't hurt, don't fuck with it. Just wait until they knock your ass out for surgery. They give me an IV eventually. They give me an IV and pump me full of drugs. And they move me to another room, I guess, to like prep for surgery. And I don't know if it was me being fucked up on drugs or if this was an actual conversation that went on. But I think I'm fairly certain they was talking about just like stitching my arm together like right there, just how it was. And I'm no medical professional, but I look at my arm and I was like, that needs something internally done. I'm no doctor, but I know that my arm's fucked up. I know that you can't just mush them together and hope everything's gonna be all right. But eventually they knocked me out for surgery. At the time I didn't know it, but I'd cut 5 tendons in my hand. I could barely move any of my fingers, and I couldn't move my thumb. Like, trying to move my fingers at full force, I couldn't do it. I could only barely move my pinky, ring, middle, and pointer finger. I could barely, like, wiggle them. And my thumb, I couldn't move. I literally could not move my thumb on its own. The doctor was able to reattach 4 of the 5 tendons, and I got some gnarly looking scars out of it too. After the surgery, I had to go through so much physical therapy. I had to go through so much physical therapy to gain motion and strength back in my arm. It was 22 stitches at first, and then I had to wear a brace for a long time. It was fucked. It was stitched together. It was I forget what they're called, but like steri strips. So they're like, it's like tape, but they act like stitches. I had a couple of those on there, and then they done like the steri strip thingy or whatever they're called, and then eventually it healed back. And now I'm left with a wicked scar on my arm and a wild story to tell. So if you've learned anything from this video, probably don't play around with sharp things when you shouldn't be. Leave the sharp things to the professionals. Don't be fucking around with them too much. And if someone throws one at your head, probably move and get the fuck out of the way, because it's not worth it to stand there and look at a shiny object flying through the air. So that's about it for this one. Remember to like it if you like it, sub if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one.